Welcome back, all of you. So we are now moving into beginning some real basic forms of analysis, and as we talked a little bit about it in class, we're going to use existing data, but we're going to begin to modify it. So here's where we're going. First of all, we need to understand how many and where. It's kind of the most basic question in geography, is we want to know how many bear nuisance incidents there are by county in Florida. And we also want to know bear mortality by county. Now later on we're going to look at some things like time components of that. But for right now we just want to know those numbers. And then we'll talk a little bit about normalizing those numbers. So what we're going to learn in this section is three basic skills. We're going to learn how to do a definition query, what it means. We're going to learn how to summarize our data based on an attribute field. And then lastly, we're going to learn something called a spatial join. That is to take the data from one data set and join it to another based on its location. So in this case, we're going to join the number of bears of a given time that are alive to a county. All right, so that's where we're going to go. Next, what we need to do is we need to get rid of some extraneous data. And this is where the definition query comes in. Remember that we had the entire country's counties. And so we don't want all of them. We just need Florida's counties. So how do we do that? Well, we use something called a definition query. And the definition query is present in either ArcMap, ArcGIS Desktop, or in ArcPro. And I'm going to do it in both cases, and then we're going to look at what we get. Okay, so let's get to that first. All right. I'm going to begin here in ArcMap. We're going to use the same option. It works both ways. And we're interested at this point only in our counties. And so again, you'll notice we have all the counties in the country. And so definition queries in ArcMap we find by right-clicking on the data set, in this case the feature class of U.S. counties, and what we want to do is limit them. That's really what a definition query does. And we find the definition queries because it affects a data set, in this case feature class, we find it under its properties. So we're going to click on properties, and you'll notice there's actually a tab that says definition query. When I click on definition query, I'm going to go into the query builder. Now at some point you can actually learn to simply type in the query above, but I use the query builder. It makes it a little easier. And so what we're interested in, we're saying that we want all of the counties whose state name is Florida. Now, why do I know that? I've looked at the data, but the way you can understand this too is if I open up the attribute table, what we notice is that we have all of these have a name, and that's the county name, and then we have a state name. You also have some other things which are a FIPS code, county FIPS codes, and we'll talk about FIPS codes later on. They simply are a numeric shorthand or identifier for locations in the country. We also, by the way, have our population in square miles and a few other things. All right, close my attribute table, and now I know that I want to use that state name. So again, I'm going to go back to my properties. In my query builder, I'm going to, in query builder, notice the language. It says select from U.S. counties, so that's from the whole data set, where, and this is where we have to put in a logical expression, where state name, so I have to put that in, select from U.S. counties where state name, that's the field that I'm interested in, and in this case is equal to, and I can click here, get unique values, and it'll list all the unique values. If I want to jump, if I have hundreds of these, I might put go to, and I'd start with F, and there's Florida, and I need to double click on Florida to put it in. So now my query reads state name is equal to Florida. In other words, give me all of the polygons where they have the attribute field state name is equal to Florida. Now you'll notice that this is a text file, or text field rather, and so I have single quotation marks around Florida. Once I have that in, I'm going to hit OK, and then I have to, and you'll notice it's written in right there, and I'm going to hit apply. And now I'm going to hit OK. And now you'll notice that only Florida appears. That's all I have here now. I'm going to turn off my bears and my black bears. One important thing that you can then do, a definition query is part, in a sense, in this case, of the map. We haven't really changed the data. We've simply said, in this map, when we add U.S. counties, this is how they're going to look. That also means, though, that within this map, when we're working on this, that's the only data that the program essentially sees in relation to U.S. counties. Now, this is temporary, though. If I were to add U.S. counties to another map, all of the U.S. counties would come back. If I want to make this definition query permanent, what I need to do is right-click, Data, and I'm going to export the data. So what happens here is it will only export the data that the definition query says is available. The other good thing, though, about exporting data is when I do this, I'm going to export its metadata as well with this modification. So I'm going to click on Export. And in this case, I'm going to export this to my bear study. And in this case, I'm going to say Florida counties. Now, please note this last step. Notice that this says either layer source data or the data frame. I want it to maintain its original projection properties, so I'm going to keep it at the layer source data. If I did want to kind of do a quick and dirty reprojection, I could use the data frames properties, but I don't want to do that here. So here we go. I click OK. It's going to ask, do I want to add it? I say yes. And now I can get rid of the old one, and I only have the counties for Florida. This is a new data set. Okay, I will come back and we will see how to do it in ArcPro. Okay, we're back, and again, I just want to do this very quickly. The same idea in the ArcPro environment, and it works virtually in essentially an identical fashion. So again, I'm interested in my counties, so I select them. I right mouse click, and again, properties, same place. Now here, you'll notice the definition query looks a little bit different. And so what I need to do here is we're going to what we do call add a clause. So I'm going to click on add a clause, and we're going to say state name is equal to, you don't get the numeric operators here. And what we're going to do is say that it's equal to, and we're going to click on the values option, and we're going to say, again, Florida. I'm going to click OK. Okay, we're going to add that one, and OK. And now you'll notice the same thing has happened. So now I have just Florida. And I'm going to do the same thing in this environment. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to export the features. And again, notice there's a little bit difference over here in that it's saying geoprocessing. So it's saying, okay, you're asking me to do something. Geoprocessing means do something. And we're going to output this to, and in this case, we're in ArcPro, and I'm going to go into my bear mortality, and I'm going to name this Florida counties. Now you'll notice that it doesn't give me the option in terms of, and there are some environments, if I wanted to change some of the environments, I would do that here, and you'll notice that if we do that, what you're going to say in terms of environments would be things like output coordinate system if I wanted to change that. Okay, and so we don't want to do that. And so we're going to go back to this, and we're now going to click Run. So there's a few more steps in terms of exporting here. You'll notice that it says copying features, updating, and so the copy features have now been executed, and now I have Florida counties, and I can actually get rid of this one. No longer need it, so I'm going to remove it from here. And so we've done the same thing. We've done a definition query, and we've exported that data to make a new data set that has only the counties that we're interested in. Okay, I'll be back in the next one, and we will be doing our summary and our spatial join.